I decided to cut the name of my presentation short, so I'll be talking about good news and bad news, but wanted to make sure, note that some of the news items here can be interpreted in different ways depending on how ready you are to accept these changes and, depending on your perspective. Just a quick introduction about who we are. So I'm here standing in front of you on behalf of my colleagues from Estonian, Latvian, Lithuanian environment, and short is ELLE. And for our non-Latvian speaking friends, I should probably mention that ELLE in Latvian means hell. So when I call my clients say, "Hi, I'm Julia from hell." But those who know us in the market are quite used to it, and I know that there are some of our clients here. And we are now actually, we're a group of companies with offices in all three Baltic states, and there are about 50 environmental experts in the team. But we also work in other regions of the world and have done quite a lot of projects in different parts of the world. So we know a little bit about the sustainable development. In Latvia and Estonia and Lithuania, our clients are some of the biggest companies. As I mentioned, some of you are here. And what's important and what's relevant are some of the services that we provide. We do non-financial reporting, we do Ghd calculations, and we work with climate change, both mitigation and adaptation. So developing and helping to develop national, regional, municipal strategies for reduction of emissions and also adapting to climate change, which we inevitably will have to face. We have to be ready. But we also do environmental impact assessments and environmental management systems, and we actually do quite a lot of modeling and measurements. My colleagues yesterday, we did the same thing in Tallinn. They said that I should definitely mention monitoring. That's important. I hope that's important to you, and I will mention why this whole ESG thing is related to monitoring and measurements. And what I think is also very important to note is that we are the co-founders of Institute for Corporate Social Responsibility in Latvia, which was founded in 2011. And so it means that for the past, more than 10 years already, we've been trying to promote the idea of sustainable development in the business field in our country. And I also know that some of you here are also participating in our benchmarking activity that we do, ELLE Space Index or Sustainability Index, where we basically ask the companies that want to grow in this area to fill in some, quite long questionnaires and to see themselves from the outside. So basically they can see how they develop throughout these years. So the index has been around for more than 10 years, and some of the first participants have been with us for all these years, and they have developed, let me tell you, for quite a bit. They have grown a lot, and they have increased their understanding of what it is, what is stability, how it can be important to them, what they can gain from it. And we also do a lot of, together with the Institute, do a lot of different educational activities, seminars. For example, right now, Sustainability Week is happening, and there are also different activities. And soon we will know actually who of the participants, if they are still platinum, gold, bronze, or maybe even better than that. So we've been in this market for quite a while. And so I see this presentation as a wrap up to, trying to maybe focus on why is it important and what it is all about. So there are all different terms that we have heard today, but why is it important? So here comes the news. So, definitely bad news. We are in the crisis situation, and here I'm talking about climate crisis, biodiversity loss crisis, soil degradation, our oceans are dying out. Many areas of coral reefs are dying. There are huge areas of plastic, just floating islands, floating continents of plastic in the ocean. So we're in big trouble, so we definitely have to do something about it. We can't, as Tina said, we just can't close our eyes and pretend that that's not happening. And it's not only us as individuals, which is very important, but it's also us as companies. Well, I think the bad news is that greenwashing is not working anymore and will not be working anymore. Everyone is seeing this boom of, okay, everything's green is really good and it sells well, and you can, as Mari said, you can put a better price tag on that and maybe earn more. But frankly, the consumers are getting smarter, they can understand the topic better, and they're looking for real thing. They want transparency, they want to see how it's working. And maybe even more important, and in my opinion it's a good news, that there can be legal consequences. So as you see from this news item, so very recently, the police has raided Deutsche Bank and its daughter company for making, well, allegedly making false claims about the sustainable investment products that they were offering. So they sold a lot of investment products to their customers, claiming that they were green, so people wanted to invest money in them. And then it turned out that maybe they were not that green. Well, we will see how it evolves, but the suspicion is there. So what I'm trying to say is that, first of all, the clients are demanding sustainability, but they also want to trust. So I think the only way how we can do it is by being transparent. The other bad news is that there are between 500 and 600 different ESG reporting standards out there. So which one do you choose? Like, really, everyone is asking something different. So maybe you've heard about one standard, but then suddenly your bank sends you a request to respond to some questions related to GHG, and you don't know what is this format and why is it there and what do you have to do it? Do you have to prepare another report, another Excel, another PDF for the one that I developed for other purposes also? Fine. So, well, the bad news and good news is that there are actually standards that are more recognized. For example, the one that Miriam has already, that we have seen, Mariana has showed that, for example, GRI standard, which is Global Reporting Initiative, is already built in the tool that she presented before. But the thing is that it's quite complicated. It's like not just one guidebook. It's like 20 guidebooks, 500 pages each. So where do you start? Like, which one is relevant for you? And I will answer. It also sort of brings us back to that question. So where do I start? And then this GHG reporting, everyone is talking about it. What is it? And what are these scope 1, 2, and 3? So to make it clear, so scope 1 is the emissions of the fuels that you burn in your premises. So it's the gas that you burn in your boiler, in your combustion plant. It's the fuel, diesel or petrol that is burned in the cars that belong to you, so to your company in this case. Scope 2 is the energy that you consume in your company, but the burning happens outside your premises. So it's the electricity that you use, and it's heat that you buy from the network. So it's all the gridded energy that you receive. So this is quite easy. I mean, to put it mildly, all this information is, you can go to your accountant and get it like in half an hour. She will provide all the information needed, so how much fuel you used and bring up the bills from the energy companies. So it's easy. When it comes to scope 3, it's a bit more tricky, but it's definitely very important because, it's a real example. when we started with the sustainability index like 10 years ago, and we would come to a financial institution, one of the banks, or all of the banks that also participated there, we were talking about, so they were saying, oh yes, so the way we reduce energy consumption is that we change the light bulbs for energy efficient light bulbs. And the way that we save water is that in our toilets in our office, there are two buttons to flush, one big one and one small one, and this is the way how we save water. Well, that's really good that you do that, but what about the impact of your main activity, your investments? How do these investments impact energy consumption and water consumption? Are you investing in, I don't know, maybe coal mining, or you're investing in some other activities, or maybe you're investing in cotton growing in Uzbekistan, which uses like a crazy amount of water and is not comparable in any way by the with the consumption of your head office in Latvia. So slowly this understanding is there, but how do we calculate it? So this is all about greenhouse gas emissions in scope 3. So it's all the supply chain before the products or the materials that you use in your production reach your site, your office, and everything that exits it. So your product have also impact. So like example I like to use is that for example, Levi's jeans, they have done their life cycle assessment. Although cotton production is one of the most energy and water intensive crops in the world, and it definitely makes a big chunk of this emissions in the whole life cycle. But it turned out that consumer energy that they use while washing their jeans is the main source of emissions. So by knowing that, we can put our efforts where they could they can insulate and their production sites 3 times, all around, put 3 layers of rock wool around their production site. It will make no difference. What they have to do is they have to educate their consumers, basically, how to wash your clothes to save energy. That's easy as that, but it's more complicated when you have to calculate. What's bad maybe also is that at the moment those ESG reporting requirements are only related to bigger companies, and those small ones might think, oh well, I'm not one of them, so maybe I will not have to do that anytime soon. But it's not so true, because banks have to report their emissions also in scope 3. And it means that to get this information, they will ask us, their clients, to report their emissions to them. And so basically, according to the EU Technical Expert Group for Sustainable Finance, so from 2025, banks have to report their scope 3 emissions, or also emission scope under 1, 2, and 3. At least in energy sector and mining. Then in 2024 it will be transportation, construction, building materials and industrial activities, and from 2026 is all sectors. So basically it's very, very soon that everyone will have to do it. It's only 4 years to go. So we really have to think about it now to be ready to start, as we have spoken today, collecting at least acknowledging the sources of information that we have to be able to calculate our emissions when the time comes. Well, the good news or bad news is that it's up to you. You decide that there are already standards and the methodologies of how to calculate are there. So it's greenhouse gas protocol is one of the sort of benchmarks. It's well accepted by different parties. Well, there are different, it's not just one standard, it's different standards depending on your sector, and it's for scope 3 it's a bit more complicated because it's divided into 15 different categories, etc., etc. So it can be quite tricky, but well, on the same time it's described, so there is a guideline how to do it step by step. well, another change, and it could be good, can be bad, but as it has been already mentioned that, and some of we have spoken already that some of the companies do already have to report and produce their non-financial reports. So far, these were companies that were large public interest companies with more than 500 employees, listed companies, banks, etc., etc. But now the new directive is about to be published. We're waiting for it, and there will be a larger list of companies that have to do this non-financial reporting, and it will be all large companies, all companies listed on regulated markets. So it will be more. There will be more that have to, that are obliged to report. What is good news is that there will be a mandatory EU sustainability reporting standard. So we will go from those 500 to 600 different standards. We will be able to use one that will be like a good starting point for more of us. And then the data that is reported will have to be digitally tagged. So the idea of the European Commission is that they will want to collect automatically the data from different reports of all these companies reporting in the EU. And obviously you can imagine that they don't want to do it manually, open each PDF by hand. So the idea is that this data will have to have digital tags and will be imported automatically. So again, in this sense, we're again going back to the SAP, definitely will be one of the good ways how to do it because it's automated. But then I think we're going to good news. So basically what ESG is a system, a measurement system, similar to any other systems that already you have in your companies, definitely. It's maybe it's in production side, or maybe it's in a quality control side. So maybe you have ISO 9001, or maybe you have ISO 14001 environmental management system. So, and you will know that to set up a system, it takes time and it's a bit tricky. But when the good system is in place and it operates more or less on its own, so you have to update it, but this process is smooth and it's running more or less on its own, but with one factor. What's important? That the management is involved and interested. If the top management and decision makers are not participating in the system, and it's only from the secretary that takes care of it, then the system is not functioning. But I hope that no one in this audience represents the companies where it works like this, because it's extremely important. And we, as working with those about 100, well, we say, most active companies in Latvia doing the sustainability index, we have definitely seen that those companies where management works and is interested in this process, they are at the top, because well, because it works. If it's only one person's initiative and management is not involved, then they will not be doing very well. And I have many professional life experience examples where I can show that that it's very, very important. And then well, I want to say that that's very useful. And as a system, it's a metrics. So what, by introducing this non-financial reporting, what, for example, in this case, European Commission wants us to do it. They don't tell us we all have to become green right now, but they tell us we have to start thinking and analyzing our activities. It's not about penalizing someone. Oh, your percentage of green electricity that they use is not as good as your competitors. It's not like that. It's like, well, at least I know how I compare to others, and I can compare myself with myself 5 years ago, and it's very helpful. And I will give you one example, but basically what this whole system or ESG management system will do is that it will help to build your trust. So basically by being transparent, you become more attractive to this 81% of customers that will base their decision on trust. It will definitely help you to comply with legal requirements, be it EU or central ECB, or maybe it will be a third-party requirement basically coming from your financial institution. They will tell you that you have to report GHG, but you already do it. It will be easier. Obviously, measuring to manage, you can't manage something that is not measured. You will be able to set targets that are science-based, so calculated based on some data. You will be able to design strategies that work. For example, as Mariana showed, you can actually model and see how it works, like how much can you reduce by applying one measure or another, and then you can also compare the price and choose the most cost-effective measure. In your case, and then design strategies and implement measures, see with time whether you have achieved what you planned. Maybe you will overachieve, which hopefully will be the case. Definitely will help to keep or improve your reputation and save money. Actually, yesterday in Tallinn, my colleagues tried to say that that's the first thing you should mention, that you will save money. And well, it's true, because when the companies only start embark on this trip to sustainability, they actually don't know why they have to do it. And that's the main motivation. They actually, most of the companies will be able to save in the long run. Of course, if you're planning only for 2 years, maybe not. But if you're really looking for like long-term growth and sustainable growth, then this will definitely help decision-making. And now I will finish with one example about how monitoring can be very effective and important. So just recently, maybe you've noticed that our Latvian environmental protection agency, state environmental agency, Valsts vidas dienests, they had a project where they randomly selected different combustion plants. They went to this combustion plant and made tests. So basically, they took the tests from the pipe, to find out what is the concentration of polluting substances in this exhaust that comes from the combustion plant. And they found out that about 50% were not compliant with the regulations. It is a bad news because, maybe they have to be fined. But what they did is that they informed the operators of this combustion plants that, something's wrong. And most probably, what's wrong is that your combustion plant is not working efficiently. You have to invite engineer to basically turn a few bolts here and there, and to fix it, to make sure that it's in optimal condition. And what they had a press release, and they said, it's quite strange that nowadays, when energy resources are more expensive, and for example, in the past few months, the prices increased by, for example, 10-15%, that they could actually save those 10-15% just by fixing a few things here and there, not changing anything, not importing new very expensive source of energy, not buying a new equipment, just fixing it. And this shows, basically what they did. They informed the operators and they said, you have 3 months to solve this problem and pay for the next measurements from your own pocket, which is natural, obviously, and to prove that it's now working okay. So this, and in our business, we have many examples where actually measuring helps to optimize the performance very, very well, because it can help you to find those elements that are not working well. And this is a good example. So just by maintaining your operation in an optimal way, they could save money for all of us, because we will have to pay for this heat and electricity at the end of the day. Hopefully they will all do this and keep their mechanisms working properly. So I think that it's important to consider this ESG as a metric, as a monitoring measurement system that will help you to find the best ways to operate. And responding to your question, where to start? So there are there are different stages. So the first stage is to understand what is important to your company. It's called, if you look at the all this guidebooks, so it's materiality analysis, a smart word to this. So you basically analyze what's important to you and your stakeholders and to your clients. So your stakeholders could be bank or regulating some institutions. So, for example, you have a polluting permit, and you know that the same environmental agency will ask you for this data, so that's important to you. So your clients are interested in low price, so clients are important to you, so, and low prices are important to you. So basically you first sort of field and map your interests. So that's the first thing, because you don't want to report and measure and spend lots of time measuring something that is not important, neither to you, nor to your clients, nor to anyone else. That doesn't make any sense. For example, for most of the businesses and banks, for example, monitoring their water consumption as such is like, well, it's good that you have that you can save water by, not flushing the full water tank in the toilet, but most probably it will not be important. But energy consumption for, because you have servers, you have like 100 different electric appliances, etc., so that would be important. So that's what you do, you map what's important to you. Then based on that, you analyze the situation, do some first steps to measure. And I should, we work with companies on a daily basis, and I should tell you that most of the information that is needed to, at least for the screening assessment, is already there. You don't have to go, you don't need to dig deep. The information is already there. Most probably it's somewhere in the accounting department. But it's just a hint, most probably it's there. So all the information is, maybe you will have to do some assumptions, maybe you will have to work to consult one or another colleague, but for screening, the information is there. And once you have realized what's the background situation, or then you can develop measures and strategies on what is important to you. So, for example, if for you GHG emissions and climate neutrality is important, or for your client, then you set target to reduce your energy consumption, etc., etc. If equal pay, and you have problems with equal pay, for example, at your work, or diversity, then you can set some targets to improve this KPI, and then you report, and you report the facts and those elements that are important to you. So the first thing is to understand why you do it and who is it important for, and then set some targets. So basically, as I said, it's a management decision to understand where we want to go, and it doesn't have to be like save the world. Definitely don't, it's not a target to save the world. You do what you can, and then it's important that you can measure it. So otherwise, it doesn't make much sense.